Welcome back as we head into the last third of the season. We're getting ready to open up week 7 here, and we just came out of week 6, so we're starting to get more teams into the playoff field with confirmed 6-win totals. I believe there's 46 teams that are sitting at 6 wins right now, which means we still have 210 teams to fill out the remainder of the playoff field as we head into these last 3 weeks. 46 teams being undefeated still as we turn this season over. Kind of a low number in all honesty, and a lot of that goes back to how many teams are actually eligible to make the playoffs, with only 491 teams eligible this season. So, it's going to start to get down to the nitty gritty. We got some big matchups coming up still that will tell us where teams are. We're definitely starting to see the separation between the top teams and the lower teams. Really getting a good idea of who the top contenders for state are compared to the pretenders. At the same token, there's one class that we cover that is really shining out, and that is Class 3A, as that is a very loaded classification right now. And, I don't have our projections done for Class 3A as yet. We've posted the 8-man Class 1A and Class 2A projections, but 3A have not been completed. By the time you see this video, though, we should have Class 3A out on our social media pages. So we'll take a look and see where everything lies there. But definitely we're already seeing some changes with Class 2A right now projecting at a cutoff around 438, which means that Du-Pec would be falling from 3A into 2A. And teams such as Wilmington and Nashville, both last year's Class 2A state champ and runner-up, are also coming back down into the Class 2A field. So, not too much of a surprise, as both those teams were definitely bubble teams to begin the season. Our state rankings were based off of a cutoff of 408.5, but definitely the rise in the cutoff number is definitely going up right now, and likewise we'll probably see the same thing in Class 3A as well. So it'll be interesting to take a look at that as we move forward. Taking a look at last week's games, starting off in 8-man, a couple games that really took notice were that of South Beloit and AFC. South Beloit lost that game 44-40 as the Raiders come away with the victory. That in one way helped out AFC tremendously, as now it's propelling them into a better playoff picture than what was originally anticipated for the Raiders. Likewise, South Beloit, a loss that they took that wasn't really anticipated or expected. So it'll be interesting to see how those two teams finish out these next 3 weeks. Another one was Amboy winning 26-12 over Hiawatha. Obviously, Amboy's part of what we call the top 6, and that's the top 6 teams in 8-man have all been able to really put a stamp on where they're at compared to the rest of the field. And Hiawatha isn't too far behind when you take a look at, they're sitting at 4-2. Their 2 losses are to Amboy and Polo, and both those losses are within 2 scores of each other. So definitely Hiawatha was always a team that had been on our radar, definitely worthy of being state ranked. The rest of the games in 8-man pretty much went as advertised. The biggest one was Decatur Lutheran getting a 48-18 win over South Fork. South Fork was ranked number 10, Decatur Lutheran number 2, and the Lions really pulled away in that one. But we're definitely starting to see that division in 8-man as well. Rolling over to Class 1A, obviously the big one that people were kind of paying attention to was Lena Winslow. as they played Class 3A Marion Central Catholic, and Lena Winslow left no doubt in that one with a 54-7 win there, putting up all 54 points in the first half and leaving the subs in for the second half with the running clock going. Taking a look around the state, some of the bigger games were that of Anawan-Wethersfield as they pulled out a 27-19 win over Knoxville, who will be in the Class 2A playoffs, and we're currently in our state rankings at number 9. Tuscola improved to 5-1 with a 29-7 win over Clinton. And usually, when you see a 5-1 Tuscola, you're like, "Oh wow, they're going to be a tough team to watch." And Tuscola is definitely going to be sitting in a good position come playoff time, but this definitely is not the Tuscola that we are used to seeing either. Another one that really stood out was the St. Bede win over Bureau Valley. St. Bede does improve to 6-0 with the 31-20 win, but looking on paper and looking at common opponents and scores and all that, you felt that St. Bede would really get a much larger win in that one. But the number 5 Bruins do improve to 6-0 to clinch to guarantee a playoff spot. Hope Academy gets the win over DePaul Prep, 35-28. That was another big game that we had our eyes on. While DePaul Prep's not making a lot of noise per se in the Class 3A field because it is highly loaded. We were able to see DePaul last year play Lena Winslow to a decent game. I mean, DePaul definitely had a lot of athletes, and had they been in a true 3A conference, we would expect them to be there. But Hope gets the win there, 35-28. And then Iroquois West lost to Moments 22-17 to fall to 4-2. Another game that, on paper, Iroquois West should have won that game convincingly, but Moments gets the upset there. The rest of the field pretty much went as expected, so we're going to roll over to Class 2A. And Class 2A, the biggest game that really stood out to me was that of Bismarck-Henning beating Salt Fork 43-42. The Devils do move to 6-0. Obviously, that was a game that Salt Fork was up pretty big in, so Bismarck-Henning had to make a comeback in that game. They did make the comeback to get the win. Salt Fork is a very physical team, but on paper, again, this was a big game for Bismarck-Henning as it might show some tendencies to help figure out how to beat them. But you got to give them credit. They battled back from adversity in a large point deficit to pull out the win regardless. And you need those kinds of wins to help you propel into the playoffs, as taking a look at those opportunities will help you out down the road when you get in those crunch time games. Rockridge was another game that kind of went in favor of Rockridge. They won 36-22, but they won over Morrison. And while Morrison's still trying to really fight to hang on to their playoff lives, again, this was a game that you really felt that Rockridge would explode on Morrison, and that did not happen. So there again, got to give credit for Rockridge gutting out a win that they should have got. But you got to give credit to Morrison, playing hard and trying to hold on to their playoff lives at the same time. So, very good game there. Again, the rest of the 3A field went as expected, or the rest of the 2A field went as expected as well. Over in Class 3A, another big game was number 1 IC Catholic getting a 42-20 win. A 42-20 win over Wheaton Academy. Wheaton Academy is ranked in Class 4A, and obviously IC Catholic has proven to be able to play with Class 4A ranked teams, as they had a 1-point loss earlier in the year to Joliet Catholic. But at the same token, big win for the Knights there as they keep rolling. Another big game that really stood out was that of Wilmington and Reed Custer. This was probably one of the biggest matchups across the state, but it was Reed Custer dominating Wilmington 50-5 in this game. So big game there for Reed Custer as they continue to move forward. Again, the rest of Class 3A played out as expected, so no need to cover the rest of the scores. We've already said that Class 3A is a very loaded field, and all those teams are really proving it in their final scores and their overall records. So we'll take a look at what our state rankings are for this year right now. Okay, taking a look at our state rankings as we enter Week 7. We'll start in 8-man, and number 1 is still MCP with a 6-0 record. Moving up to number 2 is West Central at 6-0. We now have a tie at number 3 with Amboy at 5-1 and Decatur Lutheran at 6-0. Coming at number 5 is Milledgeville at 4-2. Number 6 is Polo at 4-2. Number 7 is Ridgewood at 5-1. Number 8 is St. Thomas More at 4-2. Number 9 is Hiawatha at 4-2. And number 10 is South Fork at 4-2. Other teams receiving votes are Pawnee, River Ridge, and West Prairie, and all 3 of those teams are sitting at 3-3. Moving into Class 1A, number 1, Lena Winslow 6-0. Chicago Hope Academy moves up to number 2 as they are 6-0. At number 3 is Ridgeview Lexington at 6-0. Number 4 is CPC, who fell 2 spots. They are 6-0. At number 5 is Fulton at 4-2. Number 6 is St. Bede at 6-0. Number 7 is Ottawa Marquette at 5-1. Number 8 is Tuscola at 5-1. Number 9 is Anawan Wethersfield at 5-1. And we have a tie at number 10 with Greenfield Northwestern at 6-0 and Forreston at 4-2. Other teams that received votes were Central A&M at 4-2, Aurora Christian at 3-3, and Iroquois West at 4-2. Moving into Class 2A, number 1 is St. Teresa at 6-0. Number 2 is Moreau Forsyth, 6-0. Number 3 is Bismarck Henning, 6-0. Number 4 is North Mac at 6-0. Coming at number 5 is Rock Ridge at 5-1. Number 6 is Tri-Valley at 5-1. Number 7 is Athens at 5-1. Number 8 is Shelbyville at 6-0. Number 9 is Mercer County at 5-1. Number 10 is Vandalia at 5-1. Other teams that received votes were Knoxville at 4-2, White County at 6-0, Johnston City at 6-0, and Clifton Central at 5-1. And in Class 3A, number 1 is IC Catholic at 5-1. Moving up to number 2 with the big win was Reed Custer at 6-0. Number 3 is Princeton at 6-0. Number 4 is Byron at 5-1. We have a tie at number 5, Williamsville 6-0, and Prairie Central at 6-0. At number 7 is Wilmington at 5-1. Number 8 is Mount Carmel at 6-0. Number 9 is Tolono Unity at 5-1, and number 10 is Du-Pec at 5-1. Other teams receiving votes are Montini at 3-3, Eureka at 6-0, and Seneca at 6-0. So that gives you a look at what our state rankings look like as we head into Week 7. Obviously, with playoff projections and cut points coming off, some of these teams that we have ranked in Class 3A will most likely end up in the Class 2A field, and a lot of that, as I've stated, is our cutoff for state rankings was set at 408.5. Last year's state cutoff for the playoffs was 414 for Class 2A. Obviously, that cut total is going up as we start to see teams like Wilmington, Nashville, Du-Pec falling into the Class 2A field. So with that, that's going to increase the cutoff for Class 3A, and we're going to start to see some of these 4A teams dropping into Class 3A with the likes of Genoa Kingston, a Stillman Valley, and a few others. And, right now, if you take a look at Steve Soucy's projections, he still has Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin sitting in the Class 3A field as well. So their enrollment's at 607, so that gives you an idea of how high that we could potentially see the 3A cutoff go. So a lot of things to look forward to and break down as we continue to move forward, but we're going to move into our NUIC games and breakdowns right now. All right, our first game that we are going to cover is that of Fulton at Forreston. One could argue this could be a game of the week material. Both teams are going to enter this game at 4-2. Obviously, the winner is going to come out with playoff eligibility with that fifth win. The other team still is going to be looking for an opportunity to get that fifth win. Last week, Fulton beat Stockton 44-6, whereas Forreston beat West Carroll 60-6. And obviously, this is definitely a huge game for both teams. But taking a look at the remainder schedule for Fulton, this is their last biggest test before hitting the playoffs. The remainder of their schedule has EPC and Dakota. Obviously, as a team, you don't want to overlook your opponents. That's when you get surprised. But for the sake of myself and what I can do, I can kind of look past some of those things. I'm afforded those opportunities. And on paper, and I want to preface that, on paper, Fulton's schedule definitely drops off to their favor after this week. So, this game's important, but it's not as important as it may be for Forreston. So, if Fulton wants to sit good, get up to 7 wins and increase their seeding potential and be where they should be, this is definitely a game that they need to get the W in. So a lot is at stake for Fulton in this game, likewise for Forreston. Forreston has this game, then they have GCMS in week 8, and then they see Lena Winslow in week 9. So somewhere in this scheduling of the last 3 weeks, Forreston definitely needs to get that fifth win. And right now, over the course of the next 3 weeks, they're only favored in one of those games, which is the GCMS game. So, when you take a look at both these teams, you break down where both are currently in the season. You look at common opponents, common scores, and really the only one that stands out the most is the Forreston loss to Dakota. That's really the game that has affected Forreston the most. Fulton, obviously, their losses are to Muskegon Catholic Central and Lena Winslow in back-to-back weeks, which were week 4 and 5. Fulton feels that they kind of let one go against MCC. But it was a very tough game. Definitely that game was in the rain, so that kind of played to it a little bit. But, when you take a look at the grand scheme of things, Fulton has pretty much done everything that they were expected to. I mean, at the beginning of the season, MCC was not a game that they were projected to win, but they played in that game. They had an opportunity to win it. Lena Winslow, again, was another game that they were not projected to win, but they played a very good game with Lena Winslow, especially throughout the course of the first half. So it definitely shows you where Fulton is at in this season. But taking a look at Forreston, they did get a loss to Du-Pec, where Fulton beat Du-Pec. Forreston had a 10-point loss there. Fulton had an 9-point win there. So that's 19-point differential on either end of the spectrum of Du-Pec. Really, you can sit there and say touchdown either way, one way or the other. It's kind of a toss-up in that realm. But again, that ugly loss to Dakota is really what stands out the most between these two teams. As far as this game goes, Fulton is the favorite. They're not the favorite by much. They're about a 6-point favorite in this game. Obviously, being on the road, playing at Forreston is going to add a different level to the game. Forreston is definitely a run-heavy team. Fulton is able to really mix it up, pass it around, run it, really change up their looks. They have a lot of looks that they can throw out there and really confuse a defense. And for Fulton to find success, they're going to have to be able to exploit the passing game and utilize the run game efficiently and effectively in both areas, because obviously if you can hit one and get it going, the other one will complement itself. And the one you really want to get going the most, especially against Forreston, is the running game. But if you can get things going through the air to help make bigger holes in the running game, that's only going to bode that much better for you as well. Forreston, on the other hand, pound the rock, bead, misdirection, give a lot of different looks and do what they have to do. And this is definitely game of the week material. Not going to be our game of the week, but big game for both here, as expected. Our next game is going to be at EPC, where West Carroll will travel to play the Wildcats. West Carroll comes in with an 0-6 record. EPC enters this game at 1-5. Last week, West Carroll lost to Forreston 60-6, and EPC lost to Galena 28-13. EPC's got that one win over Dakota just a week or so ago. Yeah, it was a week ago from this last week. So, big win there for the Wildcats. Upset win, obviously. They come back. They play a pretty good game here with Galena as well. But going through everything, EPC is definitely in a position to pick up win number 2 on the season, as they should. West Carroll's, down for the year, still trying to rebuild. Once again, they're able to continue to improve, which is great. While West Carroll is sitting here getting beat week after week after week, it is great to see the week-to-week improvements that they are having, and hopefully that transcends forward for West Carroll. Obviously, in this game, though, EPC is a heavy favorite, at least a 3-score favorite in this game. They should roll in this game as well, especially with the play of Carson Heron and Donovan Kuhlemeyer getting into the mix now. It's kind of one of those bittersweet moments where, EPC could have done more early on had they been at full strength. But, still, once again, the expectations weren't very high on EPC, but you definitely knew that they would be more competitive. They showed that with that win over Dakota. They obviously had a very good game here with Galena, that they came out on the bottom of the stick. But look forward to EPC getting win number 2 on the year. And then they finish out with Fulton and then Chester. And, Chester's another game looking down the road that EPC should get the win on that one as well. So, a 3-6 season on a 2-7 prediction, or a 1-8 prediction even, isn't that bad. I mean, it's not where you want to be, obviously. Everybody wants to win and get into the playoffs and make some noise, but at the same token, you gotta take a look at where you were, what your expectations were, and see where you're at. And EPC, while it may not be a successful season as far as records and playoffs go, you'd have to almost say it's been a successful season as far as growth and maturity and being able to get back into playing competitive football. So here, EPC rolls. Another big game that could be considered game of the week material, and last year in the NUIC it definitely was, features Lena Winslow at Du-Pec. The Panthers come in perfect at 6-0. Du-Pec comes in at 5-1. Last week, Lena Winslow beat Marion Central Catholic 54-7, and Du-Pec beat Dakota 48-20. Taking a look at that Dakota game with Du-Pec, really that game kind of shows what both these teams can do, as they have similar like scores against Dakota. Obviously, you don't want to take commonalities into place, but it's kind of odd. The final score for Galena Winslow over Dakota is 48-24. Final score for Du-Pec over Dakota is 48-20. You know, Galena Winslow was up 41-8 at one point on Dakota, and Du-Pec was up 41-6 at one point on Dakota. So obviously, you got your two heavyweights here in the NUIC going at it with each other. Or two of the heavyweights, I should say, because I don't want to dismiss Fulton. Fulton is definitely in that mix, but they've already played both these teams, winning against Du-Pec and losing against Galena Winslow. So, and there again, that's another game that you can take a look at and see where each team lies. Another common opponent with each other. Du-Pec lost to Fulton 31-22. And Galena Winslow beat Fulton 54-32. So it's going to be a very physical game. Obviously, you're gonna see a stacked box for Galena Winslow at the line of scrimmage offensively as they look to get the run game going. They'll most likely throw a pass or three down the field. Typical of their fashion, and might get a surprise on Du-Pec. Likewise for the Rivermen, they're gonna be looking to stack the box defensively to try to get as much pressure on the run game, fill the gaps, seal the edge as they can in this one. The favorite in this game is Galena Winslow. Right now, they're looking at a 2 to 3 touchdown difference. It really depends on which way you go. It's about a 18-point difference right now. So, extra points could be the difference in this game as well. You get one team that can convert on their 2-point conversions or PAT kicks and another team that can't. It really starts to, make a one-score game look like a two-score game because you just gave them 8 extra points that were just 2-point tries that they converted and you didn't. So again, this is a big game. It's going to have a lot of coverage on it, as it should, but not our game of the week, in my opinion, this week. For Du-Pec, conference title rights are on the line here. In order for them to stay in the conversation to defend their conference championship, they have to win this game with Galena Winslow. If not, they'll suffer their second loss in conference play, which will pretty much negate their opportunity to repeat as a conference champion. Galena Winslow obviously has the stronghold on that one. Again, if they want to win the conference outright, they have to get this one over Du-Pec, as they still have Forreston looming in week 9. And Forreston always seems to be a nemesis in Galena Winslow's game plans. So, Galena Winslow, the favorite on the road at this game. I know a lot of people are sitting here saying or thinking that this game is going to be in Durand. It's going to be in Pecatonica. If you show up in Durand, you're not going to see a game. So make sure you go to Pecatonica. Galena Winslow at Du-Pec in Pecatonica. Be there. Big game. Galena Winslow wins. Next game takes us to Stockton, where they are going to play host to Fieldcrest. Fieldcrest comes in with a 1-5 record. Stockton comes in with a 2-4 record. Last week, Fieldcrest lost to Tri-Valley 41-0. Stockton lost to Fulton 44-6. You take a look at these two teams. Last year, Stockton rolled in this game as expected. Looking at Fieldcrest's record, while the similarities look common, 1-5, 2-4, really Fieldcrest one win is a forfeit win. Fieldcrest has just been getting rolled week in and week out. Stockton not living up to the expectations that we thought that they could potentially play at. They're sitting at a 2-4 record right now. Definitely a team we thought could potentially get to 5-4 and make the playoffs. Looking at their remaining schedule, They still have Lena Winslow and Du-Pec on schedule, so definitely don't think with high probability that Stockton is going to get to that 5-4 mark. But they do have the opportunity right here to at least make that attempt available, keep their playoff hopes alive. Big win for Stockton over Fieldcrest. They improved to 3-4. Our game of the week is featured by Best Realty, your premier choice to buy or sell your home in Stevenson and Winnebago County, including Lake Somerset. And this game is going to feature Galena at Dakota. Both teams are going to come in this game with 3-3 records. Last week, Galena earned that win over EPC 28-13, whereas Dakota lost to Du-Pec 48-20. You take a look at this game, and all you got to look at is 3-3 records. Remaining schedules, both have West Carroll still on schedule. Galena has Du-Pec in week 8. Dakota closes out with Fulton in week 9. You need 5 wins to get into the playoffs. Whoever wins this game will be at win number 4. West Carroll is pretty much a guaranteed win, provided you show up and play the game that you're supposed to play. So there's a reason why this one's game of the week. Winner is going to make playoffs. Loser is going to be out. So huge game here, and really when you take a look at both these games, you take a look at where Galena has picked up wins. They beat Madison, they beat EPC, and they beat Stockton. Likewise, you take a look at where Dakota's picked up wins. They beat Christ the King, they beat Stockton, and they beat Forreston. The common opponent that they've had over the past 2 weeks is EPC, where Galena was able to take care of that with a 28-13 win, and Dakota kind of came up short in an expected win there. In a shootout game, really. I mean, it was 40-36 in favor of EPC, but that was definitely a game that you could say that Dakota let get away. They would definitely be sitting in a much better state to get into the playoffs. And, provided that they had won EPC, this would be one of those games that would not be a must-win game for Dakota. And really, that loss to EPC had, theoretically, if you projected it and played it out, if they beat EPC and they end up losing to Galena, the NUIC could have seen 6 teams make the playoffs. So we're definitely not going to get 6 teams in the playoffs this year. I didn't project 6 teams making the playoffs. There was that outside chance that it could have happened, but it will not happen. This game here is going to determine who the 5th team to make the playoffs will be. And even then, it's still not necessarily a guarantee, as Forreston still has to get win number 5 over the next 3 weeks with Fulton, GCMS, and Lena Winslow on schedule. But that's another story. Big game here. I mean, you take a look at the teams that they've beat. Dakota got the upset win over Forreston, and yes, that's definitely an upset. A game that you didn't think was going to happen. Likewise, they then were upset by EPC in what you could really consider a trap game. Maybe they went in overlooking EPC, who knows. Either way, they stole one, and then they lost another. So Galena, on the other hand, has pretty much played out to expectation. They won the games that they were projected to win. And really, the Stockton game is a game that both these teams beat Stockton. Stockton was one of those games where, it was really a toss-up game, looking at everything preseason-wise and expecting Stockton to be better than what they have shown this year. But Galena and Dakota took care of Stockton in both those games. Obviously, the big one was Galena's loss to Fulton Lena Winslow, and then the way that they got spanked by Forreston. So, on one aspect, you got Dakota beating Forreston. You have Galena getting throttled by Forreston. And then you got Galena beating EPC by 2 scores and Dakota losing to EPC. So, what's that leave us? A toss-up game. And it's in Dakota. And playoff lines are on the balance here. So, that's where you got to take a look. Who's the favorite? Well, it really is a toss-up. I mean, you really can't say that there's a favorite. I mean, this is going to come down right now on paper. I'll throw it out there. It's like a 1-point favorite for Dakota. So really, a 1-point favorite means it's anybody's game. Who's going to show up and play? Obviously, Galena's been able to show that they can run the ball. Passing game has not been very efficient or effective. Dakota, on the other hand, has been able to throw the ball more effectively this year, completing about 54% of their passes and getting a large chunk of their yards through the air, whereas their run games kind of struggled at different points of the season. So, it's one of those things where Dakota's got to get the run game going and shut down the run game at the same time defensively. For Galena, if they do get the run game shut down, it might bode trouble for them if they can't get their passing game going. And that's an area of concern when you take a look at what they've been able to do in the passing game this year, where Dakota's definitely been more successful through there if they get their run game shut down. So, tough game here. Dakota, very small favorite. Really a toss-up game, but like the Indians at home, playing in front of that home field crowd. So Dakota gets the victory here to get to 4-3. Moving over into the 8-man, a lot of games here that really bar little to no results into what we have going on as far as the playoff picture is concerned outside of our game of the week. So we'll definitely sit here and break down these games, but this is one of those weeks where everything should go as expected. So first game, Amboy at Prairie City. Amboy comes in this game 5-1. Prairie City enters this game at 2-4. Last week, Amboy won 26-12 over Hiawatha, and Prairie City lost 48-6 over Polo. You take a look at Amboy's schedule, and as we stated before, once they got past that game with MCP, it was really pretty much a coast until their Week 9 matchup with West Central. And, we did say that Hiawatha could be a potential game that showed some playoff type caliber to it. And it did. It broke down that way. Amboy did get the 2-score win there. But, definitely Hiawatha has shown the capability to compete at least within 2 touchdowns of some top 6 teams. So, hats off to Hiawatha for being able to play 2 very tough games against Amboy and Polo. Obviously, in this one, Amboy gets the job done. They have Prairie City, who Polo just rocked, and we've already seen what Amboy's done to Polo earlier this year. And you expect the exact same things to come to fruition here. It's no lost secret. Amboy's about a 5-touchdown favorite in this game, so expect a running clock in this game as the Clippers roll on and get prepared for that Week 9 matchup. The next game is going to take us to Rockford, where Christian Life will play host to Aquin. Both teams come in this game with 1-5 records. Last week, Aquin lost to West Central 58-20. Christian Life lost to Orangeville 76-38. Common opponent here definitely is being in Orangeville. You take a look at what Aquin did to Orangeville a few weeks ago, putting up 60 on Orangeville. Obviously, Christian Life not able to do that. Aquin should roll in this game. Big favorites despite the common record. Obviously, Aquin's definitely played the tougher schedule, the harder schedule, and it shows in overall where they're rated at, score differentials, the whole 9 yards. There's really not a whole lot to say on this game. Because Christian Life just has not played to any part of the level that Aquin has had to go up against. So this one will be easy for the Bulldogs. They just got to show up and take care of business. They're going to improve to 2-5. Next game features River Ridge at Polo. River Ridge will enter this game at 3-3. Polo at 4-2. Last week, River Ridge got the huge come from behind win over Alden-Hebron 50-44, and Polo took care of Prairie City 48-6 as expected in a blowout game there. Take a look at River Ridge being at 3-3. That win over Alden-Hebron definitely helps project them into the playoff mix. There for a while, Alden-Hebron was one of those teams that we had listed as a team that River Ridge should be able to beat. You take a look at a game with like South Beloit earlier in the year, where River Ridge did not get that game won. And then another game that we had project them to lose in was Aquin, which they actually pulled that one off. And you break down what they've been able to do, and here we are at 3-3, and a once bleak playoff outlook has turned into a high possibility that they make the field. In fact, in our current projections, we have them at the 16 seed with a 4-5 record, as it definitely appears that only one team is going to get in at 4-5. Got some other people that think that Martinsville might make it in. They currently sit at 2-4. I haven't looked up their remaining schedule very closely, but they do have some tough matchups in front of them that I did not project out that they would win all of those games to get to 4 wins. I think I had them going 1-3 actually over the next, or 1-2 over the next 3 weeks. So more reason why I have River Ridge projected to win or to get into that field. Obviously, they got Polo this week. They got another top 6 opponent in Milledgeville next week, and then they end the season with Orangeville, another game that was slated originally to be a loss for the Wildcats, and definitely a game that they can't overlook because while Orangeville record isn't where we expected Orangeville to be at either, they're still going to be a formidable opponent that River Ridge will have to definitely contend with and be able to play clean football in order to come out with the victory there. Obviously, in this game, despite the huge upside advantages to River Ridge, the level of play that the Wildcats currently are playing at does not really match up with what Polo's playing at. Polo is definitely a 4 to 5 touchdown favorite in this game. Good fight out of the Wildcats. Unfortunately, this game is definitely going to go the way of the Marcos, and it won't really be that close. So it'll be interesting to see if River Ridge can slow the Marcos down at all, and if they can, anything can happen, and that's why you got to play the game. So River Ridge definitely does have some big threats that they can get going in this game, and it'll be fun to see if they can get that going, but Polo rolls. Our next game takes us to Orangeville, where the Broncos come in at 1-5 and will play host to Alden-Hebron at 2-4. Last week, Alden-Hebron lost to River Ridge 50-44, and Orangeville beat Christian Life for their first win of the season, 76-38. Once again, taking a look at some games here, this is definitely one of those games where we expected Orangeville to get in the win column. You take a look at the way that the seasons broke out and you start breaking down common opponents, all that good stuff, which gives us the information that we need to in order to make better predictions on what we expect to have happen as the season keeps moving forward. And in this game, this is definitely going to be a toss-up type game. The physicality of Orangeville can definitely play an X factor in this game. However, Orangeville really hasn't shown a lot of aggressive play thus far through the first 6 weeks of the season. Hence, why they're sitting at a 1-5 record instead of sitting at 3-3 or 4-2, something more in expectations of where we thought that they could be at. But Alden-Hebron obviously had a big lead over River Ridge, let that one slip away from them. Otherwise, we would be talking about them being at 3-3 and sitting in the playoff picture. But right now, still have Orangeville as a favorite to win this game. It's definitely going to be a close game. I think Orangeville is only a favorite by a touchdown in this game, 6 points, 5 points, something like that. So really not even a full touchdown. So it's definitely a toss-up type game here. Big game for both. Orangeville needs to be able to get the run game going behind Blake Folgate. They have to be able to play some good, sound defense. They have to be able to attack the edges, stop the run game, and do what they can to eliminate the passing game. If they can do that and keep Folgate feeding the ball and not turn the ball over, which has been a big issue for the Broncos as well, is the turnover game, and win the turnover battle, then you definitely could see this game going in favor of Orangeville by a much larger score than expected. But Orangeville wins this one in a close one. Our 8-man game of the week is sponsored by Best Realty, your premier choice to buy or sell a home in Stevenson, Winnebago County, including Lake Somerset, is going to feature West Central at Milledgeville. West Central comes in with a 6-0 record, and Milledgeville enters this game with a 4-2 record. Last week, West Central improved to 6-0 with a 58-20 win over Aquin, where Milledgeville had a bye week as they received a forfeit win with Harvest Christian Academy. Unfortunately, they were not able to fill that Week 6 schedule, so they do get the W via forfeit. And hopefully, utilize that bye week to help them get more prepared for this game right here with West Central. Obviously, both teams come in as top 6 teams. West Central catapults to number 2 in our state rankings. We got a lot of people that feel that West Central should be ranked number 1. To this point in the season, West Central has not played any of the top 6 opponents, so this will be the first one that they play. Playoff seedings is definitely the biggest thing on the line in this game, along with seeing where each team really matches up, one with each other, two with potentially other teams getting ready to make that jump. Obviously, Milledgeville has losses to Amboy and to Decatur Lutheran. Both are top 6 teams already. Milledgeville's loss to Amboy is by 4 points. Their loss to Decatur Lutheran is by 2 points. Amboy's 1 loss is to Milford Cisna Park. That was a 10-point loss. Really, you could count that as a 2-point loss. Milford Cisna Park did score a touchdown late to really put the dagger in that game to get that 10-point win, but the ball game was closer than that 10-point point differential. But in either case, this game is going to be a watermark of where West Central is in comparison to everybody else. And you take a look at some of their common opponents, or take a look at their schedule and their point differentials on other teams, and they have a lot of runaway games, but at the same time, some of their point differentials don't really favor where you would expect them to be at, especially being a top 6 team. And I think that's where some of the information gets skewed on where we think West Central is, because at this point, yeah, they're winning big, but they're not winning big over quality opponents. and this week they're going to get that with Milledgeville. Obviously, West Central is going to want to attack the run game and get Caden Drosty the ball on the outside edge as much as possible, utilize his speed, and they're looking for that home run hitter on every play. And Milledgeville's going to have to be able to combat that. They're going to have to be able to seal off the edge. Milledgeville's not a big team, but Milledgeville has shown the ability over the past 2 seasons to be able to be a very fast team that can definitely shut down the edge. And in this game, they're going to have to control that. Obviously, West Central has a playmaker at quarterback in Mason Carnes as well. So you have to really put that into your game plan. You have to be able to plan for him, getting some misdirection carries, getting some passes out into the flats or on slants, something that would be more quick hitting type of game planning that West Central likes to use. Because really they're just looking to get speed in open space and run. And when you have the amount of speed that West Central has, and you can get into the open field, it's all day. And Milledgeville has definitely shown that over the last 2 years that they have the same type of speed. Obviously, not having Bryce Audie on the field this year has kind of hampered what Milledgeville has been able to do throughout the season, but Kason Johnson has definitely stepped up in a big way to help propel that. Colton Wilk has definitely stepped up as well, and then of course you still have the playmaking abilities of Connor Nye. Obviously, this year compared to last year, we have not seen the efficiency in the passer rating out of Connor Nye, but as far as putting up the yards and the scores, it's definitely comparable to what he put out last year. So for Milledgeville, it's really going to come down to limiting mistakes and being effective as possible in that pass game. Open up the holes, get the run game going, get some misdirection, and get the ball rolling in different areas that is not expected to that West Central is not prepared for to help exploit their holes offensively. Definitely a huge game. This game has been moved to Saturday at 1 o'clock due to lack of officials. So a great game for a Saturday matinee, and really everybody should get out to see it. West Central is the favorite in this game by a field goal. This game could come down to anywhere from a 2-point to a 10-point game here, and it could swing in either direction. So huge game. Get out to Milledgeville. Hopefully we see the missiles ring the bell, but my pick is West Central in this game. All right, that gives you a look at what we have coming up in Week 7. Obviously, in NUIC play in the 11-man division, we have 3 very huge contests there with Lena Winslow versus Du-Pec, Fulton and Forreston squaring off, both with potential, Fulton more so than Forreston, but Fulton definitely has conference championship ability still on the line there, especially if Du-Pec can get the win over Lena Winslow. Forreston could definitely put a dagger in that as well if they can somehow pull off the upset of Fulton and then likewise do the same thing to Lena Winslow in Week 9. But, time will tell. We're definitely in those last 3 weeks where, teams are starting to taper back things to keep fresh legs, get prepared for the long haul, which is the 5 weeks that start the end of October and roll through the end of November and conclude in Champaign at Memorial Stadium. Excited to get back down there for the state championship. Haven't been there since Forreston won in 2018, so long dismissal from Champaign for a while. Obviously, in the 8-man games, a couple good games, but really the one that really stands out is our game of the week between West Central and Milledgeville, and that game is a Saturday game, huge game. Definitely a game that a football fan will want to take in and take a look at, because when you got 2 top 6s going up against each other, you want to see that play out, and it'll give us a better picture to what the 8-man playoffs are going to look like, and really start to break down and see where each team goes, and really excited for the 8-man playoffs because I think rounds 2, 3, and 4 are going to be awesome, and that state championship game in Monmouth College is definitely going to be something to look forward to as well. So get out to the game, support your teams. As always, root for the NUIC.